Hi, this is Bob Fitrakis bringing you the other side of the news. I'm here with Cristyn Steward, and she's with the Columbus International Film and Animation Festival, the longest running festival in America. Stay tuned.
Death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh, Lord, yeah.
Okay, you're listening to WGRN 94.1, The Green Renaissance. And again, we're privileged to have the executive director, Cristyn Steward, in this, well, via Zoom, so not actually in the studio, but in the computer. Welcome, Cristyn.
Hi, how are you all?
A little peace, love, and understanding. I've always associated you with building up a very good Black film festival in Columbus. Now you're branching out in other directions and dominating the scene. Tell us a little about your background.
Yeah, so I'm a Columbus native. Always been into literary arts.
Columbus native, what neighborhood, what part of the city?
I've lived all around. I've lived North Linden. I've lived what they used to call the Bottoms. I've lived in Blacklick. Right now I live near Sunbury, near Ohio Dominican. So I've lived all over the city. So I went to grad school, came back and wanted to start a film festival in 2017. And, kind of got wind that as I was gone during those years in San Francisco to grad school, that there was a film industry budding here. And I just wanted to be a part of that in any way possible, being a native here and, like I said, being part of literary arts and seeing how I can build community and what I can bring to the industry.
Well, like loving the time of cholera, you're doing a film festival, Columbus International Film and Animation Festival, in the middle of a pandemic. Is that providing some challenges?
It did. I mean, initially, creating a virtual film festival from scratch was the challenge because I don't have a tech background at all. And so I'm used to, turning on the TV and Netflix just turns on when I push play. So it was kind of like, how do they get all of this to work? And so just trying to research and investigate what streaming is, what it means, how it operates, and then, kind of filtering out my resources to see how we could build this in the time frame that we had to build it. Since initially our film festival was April 17th through the 18th. So it would have been this weekend that we would have been at Gateway Film Center. But, we wanted to make sure that we were making good decisions, keeping people healthy and things like that. So a huge undertaking, but from the communication I've gotten from filmmakers and from attendees and things like that, people are really excited that we were able to continue on and that there's a platform where they can engage, and people are really excited about the Q&As that we have coming up this weekend.
Well, why don't you kind of explain what's going on and how people can buy a ticket, participate, be part of that Q&A scene?
Yeah, so all of our Q&As are free access. We're actually going to be doing them on Zoom. Zoom has actually given us quarantine folk a lot of opportunities and access to talk to people all over the world. So pretty much just go to columbusfilm.org, get a digital seat. It'll take you to our virtual website station, which is CIF-AF.designblaze.com. Click on those Q&As. We have filmmakers roundtables. We have other panels associated with films. Once you log into those, or basically just add your email, click into those, it'll take you to the Zoom link at those times that we have those Q&As, and all that. Those schedules are listed on the website. So columbusfilm.org will take you to our virtual film festival, where you'll be able to get the full schedule of our 117 titles.
So there's 117 titles that you can access?
Yes.
All right, so it's a huge amount. And are those the best of the festival? Are those curated, judged in some way?
Yeah, they were. So we had local filmmakers all around Columbus who are colleagues and peers and things like that who actually got together to kind of judge these films from various categories, such as short documentary, narrative short, experimental, animation, Ohio shorts. So we started with 331 films. And so we narrowed those films down to 117. And then by the end of the festival, we'll have 9 of the best films that came through the festival this season. So we're really excited about that as well.
And will there be a best of the festival? Is that the 9 or?
Yes. So the plan is to, after, we're kind of free, we're allowed to go outdoors again, is to kind of, take those best of the fest and create a film event, kind of celebrating those individuals that had exceptional stories and, use storytelling in a way that is magical for all of us. That experience of actually being in the theaters is what we're kind of striving to get back to. On the last day of the film festival and throughout the film festival, you'll see these films that were considered the best of the fest. I kind of wanted to spread them out so they weren't so overwhelming, like on the last day. But you'll get some of those best films on the 19th as well. But yeah, they're spread out. But the award presentation will actually put all of that into perspective.
Now, do you have to buy a ticket? How do you get a ticket if you want to see all 117? You said the Q&A is free, but
right.
I assume there's some cost to the ticket.
Right, there are. So we took into consideration that a lot of folks are at home. Some people are furloughed or laid off, and so the access isn't what it would have been in a different type of economy. So if you're interested in purchasing a ticket, once you get to columbusfilm.org, you click on Purchase a Digital Seat, and it'll take you to our virtual film festival website where you'll be able to purchase either a block of films, which is like it's 5 to 10 short films, or a feature film for $3.99. And if you want to access all of the titles, over 100 titles, it's $19.99. So you can do that right on the film festival page. It'll take you through as if you're purchasing something online. So anything that, like an Amazon, and to take you to the cart, you'll pick, the films that you're interested in, or if you want all the content, it'll take you through that, and you'll simply just use your credit card and pay. So it's a really experience that we're used to in terms of online shopping. So it's really created in that type of way.
Well, so you get 117 for $19.99?
Yes.
All right, makes me want to do an info commercial. $19.95, get 117 of the best films in America. All right, so let's talk a little about why those are the best, and particularly, the big 9. We know our history, and 9's always a good number. I'm down with the Little Rock 9, favorite 9. But in Columbus, I guess this is my second favorite block of 9. The 9 films from the Columbus International Film and Animation Festival. So, same values. People who know Cristyn know she's got very progressive values. So,
yes.
Tell me which of these do you like and why? And then tell me, why do you think these 9, or particularly, I know Train, my producer, told me you have 4 you really wanted to talk about. So proceed.
Yeah, so we were talking about some of the interesting films that were coming through, and they're not necessarily part of the best, but some of the ones that are as interesting. And one of them was Invisible Hand. Invisible Hand is one of the bigger, it's a feature documentary, or documentary feature, which is environmental. And I brought that up as being an important one important film, because they're actually changing legislation more recently in terms of what they're doing with the Ohio Lake Erie bill. And so I thought that was really interesting in terms of like who is on board and helping them. And Mark Ruffalo is one of the producers, and it's a big deal in how they talk about nature's rights, the rights of nature. We always talk about human rights, but we rarely talk about the rights of nature and how we protect nature, and our relationship to nature and how we live on this planet. And so really interesting film. We'll be screening that on April 18th at 1 p.m. And if you just decide to purchase that block, that is $3.99. You can do that straight away from the site. And Joshua, I cannot pronounce his last name, I apologize, but he will be in one of the Q&As that we have on April 18th as well. So we have those two Q&As, one at 1 p.m. and one at 5:30 p.m.
Well, I'm speculating, but I'm guessing that invisible hand is that famous term from Adam Smith, the godfather of classical capitalism, which means no regulation of the environment. And there has been a tremendous battle. I've done some legal work in it in Ohio, based on Ecuador, where in their constitution, the environment has a constitutional right as an ecosystem to exist, and people can sue on behalf of the ecosystem. And that's what the voters in Toledo voted, that the ecosystem, which was tremendously damaged by toxic algae, and what made that algae worse is if you boiled it, it got more toxic and killed you quicker. Like 500,000 people without water, is that the people stepped forward. So this is an ongoing political, moral, ethical, and of course, ecosystem struggle in the Buckeye State. So seems like the festival's privileged to have this film.
Right, it is. We're very excited about it being a part of our lineup, because a lot of times we have film festivals that aren't diverse in terms of like the stories that they're telling. But we're grateful enough to have a very diverse topics, such as things that are environmental. Because sometimes you'll get some shorts, you'll get some animations that talk about the environment, but I think it's pretty huge that I want to say a good percentage of our films are talking about the environment in the ways that I think are necessary in this climate.
Now, is this a feature?
Yes.
Or it's not a documentary?
It's a documentary feature. So,
but it's feature-length documentary?
Yes, it is. So it's about 90 minutes or so.
Well, that's long. A lot of documentaries are an hour or less.
Yeah.
Okay, and you've seen it?
I've seen some of it. I haven't seen all of it.
Okay. They don't make you watch all 117?
No, I have some help.
They couldn't afford you.
I have some help, but I definitely, as the ED, I do get the opportunity to, especially since we're virtual, I get the opportunity to screen as many films as possible, the ones that I couldn't watch. So I kind of divvied up all the topics during the jury season so we could all kind of look at certain topics and things like that. So,
streaming to you from the Indy-Media studios of the Free Press Network here on YouTube, but also available online at WGRN.org. Plus, listen to us on Columbus, Ohio's 2 volunteer-run low-power FM radio stations, Fridays at 5:30 p.m. on WGRN 94.1 The Green Renaissance, and Mondays 5:30 p.m. on WCRS 92.7 and 98.3.
What are the other 3 that you wanted to talk about?
There was another film, and most of these, now that I think about it, are kind of all documentaries. But there was
Well, that's part of your crowd, right?
Right, right. So we have Unschooled, which talks about, you know, there's a school that was built, and it was based on trying to help lower income families decide on the path of education. So do we want to have education that's more structured, or do we want education that kind of gives children like free will in terms of what they want to learn, but how they navigate the world? And so it basically came down to families wanting the best for their child versus politics, and the children being behind, but also the children having their own voice and the type of education that they want. And we'll have those directors and some of the executive directors and some of those students on a panel on April 19th. And we'll be screening that film on April 19th at 3 p.m. And I think that's a good topic in terms of education, because in the States, we always talk about how comparatively our education is starkly different to a lot of other countries. And it's not the worst, but it's not the best. But also kind of navigating how we should kind of like change how we approach education. How can it be better? We're in a period of time where it's all about testing, right? Like, we're not really teaching kids actual topics or actual, critical thinking or analytical skills. We're teaching them how to take tests.
Cristyn, isn't that how the real world works? Every Friday, you're the executive director. Don't we tell you to get out your number 2 pencil and give you have weekly tests?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, these are key issues, particularly key issues for underserved, underprivileged communities. And there's been a long running split. I mean, there's those that like those kind of military academies,
right?
Malcolm X Academy in Detroit, where everyone, and then there's over in Harlan, where Deborah Myers ran the academy. Mm-hmm. And that one was one of my favorite schools of all time, because they'd have a class for 2 hours called Justice. And they'd start with, is our school just? Mm-hmm. Are the police just in our neighborhood? Mm-hmm. They go down to the court and say, is the court just? Mm-hmm. And it was wide open. So these are, and that school, nobody wanted. So the teachers took it over. That were all experimental. Yeah. So when we look at this stuff in these documentaries, I mean, this is the real world. I mean, Finland's my favorite because everyone agrees it's the best school system. Yeah. And they often don't talk about how it got there. They outlawed all private schools. Yeah. So rich kids had to go to school with poor kids. And suddenly the rich parents coughed up money to make the teachers the best paid people in society. So the best and the brightest. If you're going to have to go to school with poor kids, then they're going to be good schools, the best schools we can offer.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad approach. I mean, because it kind of it forces everyone to think about how education is a community sport. We can't do it. It's not one person over here or one family over here. It's all of us together. Working in a world together. So I think that's the best approach. That's the best approach.
And so we know what it means to be unschooled.
Yeah.
So did you go K through 12 at all in Columbus?
I did. I had Columbus, what was called CPS back in the olden days. So it was like Columbus Public Schools. So yeah, I did K through 12 in Columbus Public Schools. Which it fared me well enough.
So when I think about your background and what you do, I'm thinking Fort Hayes, Artie. But that wasn't the case.
No, I went to different elementary schools. I went to Franklin Alternative Middle School when it was.
Franklin over on Old Town East.
Yeah. So I went over there, and then, the feeder school was East High School. And so I went to East High School. East High School actually gets a bad rap for a lot of different reasons, but historically it used to be one of the best schools.
Oh yeah, it
in
was
Columbus.
a lot of the elite in the city. People I know, like Ray Miller, longtime state senator,
Yeah.
came out of East. A good friend of mine, Michael Reese. But I just, did they ever get a place for their band to practice? I always used to see them practicing in basketball
Well, yeah.
over
So
in
when
Franklin Park.
yeah, so when I went to the school, there was a band room. And then when they remodeled the school in 2008, um, they moved the band inside. So the band actually got a bigger space. But the band practices at Harley Field. So we're still one of the only schools that don't have a field right behind our school.
Right, exactly.
Our field is like half a mile away. But yeah, it was all good. And, it was a different time, but also I think, the education I got there was relevant. I went on to Miami University and then Academy of Art.
Which arguably, is the public ivy in this day. That's, I mean,
Yeah.
come on, I went to OSU for law, but I know the undergraduate, the best school in Ohio is Miami. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I don't think about it like in those terms anymore, but thinking about Unschooled makes you think about those types of things. Another thing that we briefly had this, I sent him a link. But one of the films I didn't talk about was actually a short, but it was a web series. And I don't think we talk enough about the opportunity that film festivals give web series. They kind of give them life in a different type of way instead of just living on YouTube. Was We Fight, We Love. And We Fight, We Love is actually a web series about 3 couples who self-facilitate their own therapy because one of their mentors, after 30 years of marriage, were getting a divorce. And so they're all really good friends, and they self-facilitate these meetings, and they talk about like those big topics, in marriage. So sex, trust, kids, health, and each episode kind of talks about these different topics, and it comes from a comedic side of marriage. And so I think that it's really good. I actually also assisted directors on this project as well. But it's very funny kind of listening to a script of people who potentially are married talk about health and religion and sex very frankly in ways that a lot of married couples are afraid to discuss.
Well, yeah, particularly with a camera on you.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, so is it like a series in the sense it's a half hour and they did it periodically, once a month, once a week?
So it's actually made for web. So it's actually 10 minutes an episode. So 7-10 minutes episode. So very quick discussions. And it's about, we don't have the whole series for the film festival. But initially the series is about 10 episodes. I think we're going to screen probably 3 of those short episodes in the film festival.
So I'm not sure what the titles are these days. Early on, there was like a vlog, right? People would just like stick their face in front of a camera and do a vlog.
Yeah.
If it's done regularly, does it become a series, particularly if some people actually watch it?
Yeah, so vlogs actually can have episodes. So people have seasons of those. Like not too long ago, now there are podcast seasons. So it didn't used to be that people produce so many podcasts in one sitting to where, or one, season to where they had seasons. And so it's kind of like the same thing. And so we filmed them pretty quickly because they were scripted. So we filmed them around about like a month.
Okay, and so 3 of those, what's that called again?
It's a web series, We Fight, We Love. It's called The Unromantic Comedy.
But you told me it was a comedy. It's like unromantic, unschooled, but you found it some humor in it?
Yes, it is a comedy. It's written like a comedy. So basically, these couples just have conversations about, their health and, sex and, how to raise kids and religion, and taking these hard topics and kind of making them funny. So, you have this one couple who's like very eccentric, they're very much in love, but they don't always agree on certain types of things. And, one of the topics they talk about in religion is the fact that, they don't really have a religious base, but the husband always sees opportunity in being a capitalist in these religious spaces. So they make this joke about, selling hijabs at the synagogue, not at the synagogue, I'm sorry, at the mosque. And the wife is like, you can't sell things at the mosque and then go to church on Sundays, because that's not how it works. And, he's just saying, he wants to make money for his family because they have children, and she's a teacher, and so they don't have much money. And so they also talk about saving and how just making it a habit. But they just talk about different things on how how to make marriage work, even if it could be difficult. But the writer really brings out the humor with these couples. It's really exciting. I think you guys would enjoy it.
All right, look forward to that. And that's 3. You got another one for me?
Let's see. So there's another documentary called Test City, USA, which actually takes place here in Columbus, and it talks about Columbus being a test city. It talks about how,
like a marketplace to test products and
absolutely
goods and services.
Absolutely. So the director basically talks to various folks around Columbus, as well as Shannon Hardin being one of those folks. He basically talks about
city council president
yes.
Shannon Hardin.
Yeah, and he basically just talks about how, corporations come to Columbus, they test out their products, their products do well or they don't, and they make a decision about how to go national and global. They just talk about, how it can help or hurt the economy and those types of things. So that was another good film that came through the film festival as one of our Ohio features, which is actually ended up being the only Ohio feature this year. Features are a huge undertaking nonetheless, but I think it's a really good documentary to talk about. I think we talk about Columbus being a test city as if it's like a secret, but it's not. It's kind of, part of the economic plan for Columbus. And I think he talks about that a lot. And I think that's a good topic of discussion, especially when we talk about, the film industry, for instance, and kind of where that's going and how Columbus is involved in that. Or how much more they can be involved in that. So I think he has some good topics on that film as well. So come join us at the Columbus International Film and Animation Festival at columbusfilm.org. You can buy a digital seat and it'll take you to our virtual film festival online. You'll have an opportunity to purchase film blocks for $3.99 or purchase all access films and free content for $19.99. We also have free content, which will include panels with filmmakers, as well as a roundtable with filmmakers discussing how the film industry will change after COVID-19.
All right, thanks a lot. Check out the Columbus International Film and Animation Festival this weekend. Thanks, Cristyn Steward.
Thank you for having me.
And hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh, Lord, yeah.